Good evening, everyone. Call this meeting to order, the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education. Tonight's October 21st. Called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, I'd like to call Principal Debbie Wingo to the podium. She's going to introduce our students that plan to give us the Pledge of Allegiance and then give us a brief report about what's going on at Bethany School.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. I have 4 students. Come on up, girls. Caitlin, Rhea, Maggie, and Akshata. They're going to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have just a real brief presentation.
Great.
Don't be shy. You're not shy. I know that about all of you.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And before the presentation, if I could ask the audience, please silence your cell phones. And for information, this meeting is being recorded. Ladies?
Okay. This is our presentation on the Leadership Day that we hosted this year. This is our presentation for the Leadership Day that we hosted this year. We hosted it on September 25th, and this was our 2nd annual Leadership Day.
Brody Castor was our guest speaker. He taught us leaders this inspiring quote, "Your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become who you are."
During meet and greet, we met new people, danced, and played a big game of Simon Says, including everyone. There was over 300 students participating from various schools.
Middle school students from different schools were put into campfires with one high school leader. We did numerous activities to bond with each other and learn about each other. All these activities were based on some sort of aspect of leadership, such as trust and communication. We also got to learn each other's personal stories, which made our bond even stronger. From just a couple hours of meeting, we all had a really strong connection.
We also did a fashion show where we were given only 2 items, newspaper and masking tape. We were asked to create something beautiful out of it on our 2 models. So we had our designers, our models, and our callers. And if you think about it, it really helped us learn some problem solving, because how are you supposed to make something beautiful out of newspaper? And when we had to strut down that aisle showing off our newspaper outfits, it taught us a lot of courage.
In conclusion, we learned many leadership skills and interacted with students from other schools. We can't wait to go again next year. Thank you.
And I'd just like to thank parents for coming out tonight to bring them thank you, and tell you that we'll be back if within the next couple of meetings. They want to go now to Southern California for a leadership conference. So we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Roll call.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
Shane Nielsen.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here.
Samantha DeTiberis.
Absent.
Approval and/or corrections of the agenda.
There are none.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Receiving a public comment. If anyone has anything not listed on the agenda for comment. Moving on, consent items for consideration. Item A is approval of governing board meeting minutes from October 7th. Item B is the budget revisions and warrants. Item C is approval of 2015-16 hires, which Trustee Lampel will read shortly. Item D, acceptance of retirement of James Nolan, Director of Maintenance Operations and Transportation. Item E is acceptance of resignation. Item F is a termination of classified employee. And item G, approval of updated 2015-16 fundraisers.
I'd like to move for approval of the consent items as presented.
Second.
And I'll read them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So I'd like to take a moment to welcome our new employees to Lammersville. Logan Loya, social studies teacher. Mina Thakadam, a self-contained teacher. Alan Perkins, music teacher. Maria Ayala, Custodian and Security 1, Jonathan Perdue, IT Tech 1, Jackie Ochoa, Administrative Secretary, Personnel Clerk, and Crystal Feichter, Food Service Worker. And I would also like to thank Mr. Nolan for all of his service to the district.
I would also like to acknowledge Mr. Nolan. He's not here tonight, but he came in at a transition time for the district and really took the bull by the horn and has led all the custodial. And we've done a lot of work with him with the Facility Use Committee meetings, and he's been instrumental in helping us get some of the policies we have today. So please make sure that Jim gets our thanks.
I believe we call him now the King of the Gophers.
Yes.
That's right. Well deserved. District Administrative Reports. Item A is Superintendent's Report.
I'd like to ask Director Sherburne to come up and give a quick overview of our map results from this fall.
And I would like to wish Heather a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I just want everybody to know I'm one day older than she is.
I was just saying, though, I was born on East Coast time. We might be closer than that, even. All right. Well, good evening. Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here to share the information from our fall map testing that we've taken this year. So the first chart that you have in front of you is sharing the reading scores from this fall. Overall, the results are really good. Every grade level is exceeding the national fall mean RIT score. And then starting in 5th grade, in fact, the fall mean for the district is actually meeting or exceeding the spring national mean RIT score. So our kids are coming right out the gate and doing as well as we would expect them to do at the end of the year. New on this graph from what you've seen in previous years is this blue bar on the graph, which gives the national end of the year spring RIT score that correlates with the proficiency on the CASP or SBAC test. So this is the first time that we've had that kind of information. And while there are different tests, they have done the analysis at NWEA to determine what mean RIT score actually correlated with scoring at the proficient level on the SBAC test. And as you can see, our comparison to that RIT score, while it's higher, we are still comparing very well to that end of the year target for reaching proficiency on the SBAC CASP test. Also new this year, we tested the high schoolers for the very first time in reading. We wanted to see how their reading scores would compare, and as you can see on that bar graph, our 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, the only data we have is our own 12th graders, but they are all exceeding the expectations. So this is a similar graph for math, and the math scores show a similar pattern to those that were in the reading area with the fall national mean exceeding our fall national mean exceeding the national mean for the fall. When you look at it in comparison to the spring mean RIT score or the SBAC, it's still, again, a similar comparison. With 5th through 8th grade especially, they're near meeting or exceeding that end of the year spring score. And the SBAC CASP testing score is again shown in blue on that graph. So this next slide does a comparison by grade level for each of the sites with the national mean RIT score. For the most part, all of our schools are doing really well. The only exception to that we have a slight amount of work to do is with our Title I school at Lammersville, where they're a little bit behind and not meeting the fall national mean right now. And Wickland has a couple grades that are just slightly lower than the national mean for the fall, but otherwise we're meeting or exceeding it across our district. So this is the math picture. And again, it is very much a mere comparison to the reading.
Can I ask you a question before we move the slides?
Sure.
So that little drop in some of the Lammersville scores at the grade levels, is that amount significant?
It's really not that far behind it. However, as you move up the grade levels, the RIT score growth doesn't change that significant either. So the answer kind of depends a little bit. The other thing that's a part of Lammersville's factor is that because their grade levels are so small, when you look at the percentages of students, one student leaving out of a 15-student class or an 18-student class is a lot greater percentage than one student leaving out of 60 students or 80 students across a larger school. So you'll see a lot more variation in the scores at a small school. Make sense? Okay. This graph, I don't believe you've been shown before. This graph is a comparison of the fall scores for students with the, in a particular grade level, with the growth that we expected them to have for the next school year. So if you look at it, in kindergarten, our students took the test last year, and then there was a growth set by MAP testing, a growth goal set for them. That's what that growth goal is in the triangle diamond shape that's there. So then you look at it in first grade, at the beginning of the year, they're really still kindergartners coming in at the beginning of first grade. We want to know, did they really meet that goal of what we would expect them to do at the beginning of first grade for the fall, including the summer learning loss and all of those things. So this is their comparison of how they've done. For the most part, our students are meeting or exceeding the growth goal that was set for them. What you'll see there is a difference that's between the second and the third grade right there that looks a little bit like, wow, what happened there? There's also a difference in the testing there. In K1 and 2, that testing is done by headset where the questions and passages are read aloud to them, and the students are comprehending really more auditorily than they are with physical reading comprehension in that test. And that's the test that we've chosen as a district to have our K2 students take. Second grade has the option of taking the test that is with the 3rd through 5th grade band where they have to actually read the test. That's what the expectation is really more telling and really would prepare our students for 3rd grade a lot better. So we have now already made an adjustment that we've determined that we're going to have our 2nd graders take the test with the 3rd through 5th graders where they have to actually read it. So some of that drop is because they went from where the test was read to them and they were just answering the questions and comprehending to in 3rd grade, they had to read the test and comprehend it entirely on their own. So you'll see that drop in scores because of the type of testing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the golden diamonds, are those, and I apologize that I don't know this, are those I'm going to call it target for lack of a better term, for the beginning of the year or end of the year target?
That would be the goal of where you would expect them to achieve after having their whole year of instruction from the year prior on the beginning of the year score test.
All right.
I forgot what I was going to ask. We can wait. No.
Okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So this is the same chart for mathematics. The picture is very, very similar, and you see the same drop between 2nd and 3rd grade because while it's math, they still have a lot of reading to do of the mathematical items to understand. So you have that same drop where reading is going to play an impact on it. We still did fairly well with nearly meeting or meeting the growth goals, although there's a little more work to do in this area than there was in the reading area.
I remembered what I was going to ask, and it pertains to both the ELA and the math. How is the CASP done in 2nd grade? Is it, I know they're on the computer.
CASP is not tested in 2nd grade.
Not in 2nd, okay.
So whereas CST, they took it in 2nd grade, CASP now starts in 3rd grade.
I didn't realize that, okay. Thank you.
With the text complexity requirements of CASP and the Common Core state standards, though, we will be far better off preparing our students and give us more realistic data by having them take the test that is with the 3rd through 5th graders. So we attended a conference, we meaning my two coordinators, Jenna Cook and Brian Gervas, and I attended the MAP conference with NWA in Portland just a few weeks ago. And it was an amazing conference. We learned a lot of great things. And MAP is really making some huge shifts and changes to continue to improve their product, and as well as to adjust to the SBAC and CASP and what does it mean and all of those other things in terms of the assessment that's done. One of the things that they shared and we learned about is Skills Navigator, which is a brand new product that's coming out for them. So right now our MAP testing rolls over into another program that we've bought called Compass, where it can generate individualized learning pathways. Those pathways are aligned with the standards. Skills Navigator is slightly different in that within a standard, there are multiple sub-skills that need to have been mastered in order to be able to achieve that standard. Skills Navigator goes in and analyzes all of the sub-skills, and it can go back in and it can target these are the missing links that you have that are causing you a problem that are earlier prerequisite skills with meeting the standard. So the two products could be complementary. Skills Navigator is an additional cost, but it's something that we're looking at that might meet our needs with helping students who have specific issues where we're needing to meet that need. The other thing that they have right now is they're doing a lot of correlation charts between Skills Navigator with the Guru content, and Guru is something this district has been using already, and they're helping to pick and pull those lessons and put that together both with things that the students can do as activities within the classroom and at home for individualized practice, but also with lessons that teachers can access that will give them information about how to teach small group instruction with their children that are struggling as learners. Additionally, there's a professional development site that has a wealth of resources that we've actually had access to, and no one was aware of that. So we've learned about this, and we're going to start taking those pieces and putting those together and rolling them out to support our teachers through the video professional development and the print professional development organized within that. And then they are also preparing many, many new reports, some of which I've mentioned and shared, that are coming out, and they're doing upgrades and patches to their product on a monthly basis. So it's really exciting. So lastly, we want to give it a little bit of context and put it into perspective on this chart here. When we look at it, remember that going from the CST test that we've had in the past to the CASP test that the students are taking right now, we are comparing apples to oranges. At the same time, we want to try and make some meaning out of it. We want to use our products that we have like MAP to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to address our students' needs. So how do we put this into a little bit of perspective? What you see there is we had the accountability system of the CST. The district had, at the last time an API score was given, had an 873 as a district. The AYP at the district level was 72.5%. And the goal, you can see where it says AYP in English Language Arts, was 89%. So what the no means is, did the district at that time meet the AYP goal set by the state? And the answer at that time was no. And many districts did not meet that goal. In the area of math, the goal was 89.1. The district's achievement was actually 71.9. And again, no, we did not meet the goal. So what does that summary really mean? That we had 27.5% or 28.1% not meeting the proficiency that we wanted. We did not meet the 100% of students proficient that we would all like to have. So what does that look like in terms of CASP? We don't have anything that looks anything like an API, so we can't look at that. But if we look at percent proficient in ELA, the state had the expected rate of 40% for the very first year coming out for a statewide expectation of proficiency. So we exceeded that with 58%. We also have the claim areas there with the percentages that are there. In the math area, you had an expected rate of 33%, and we had an achievement of 48% where we exceeded that. So in the summary, what would that mean? Well, we'd have 42% or 52% that were not yet proficient, like we would hope for them to be. But if we look at that at the claims level area, which are a large part of the achievement as well. It's not just the content area, but also all of the practices and proficiencies and how well they apply it. That's a shift in the Common Core. So that area is very important as well. We're only at between 14 and 26%, 21 to 30%. Not having met that goal. So you can see that there's some very similar ranges of achievement of not meeting the proficiency levels as compared to the CST and the AYP targets that we had in the past. So we feel like this is a good indicator that we're headed the right direction, that our data is showing that we're achieving similarly, and that we are moving along, and in some cases doing better than we would have expected to do the first time out the gate on this.
If I understand that correctly, you're saying that our apples and our oranges are relatively equal?
Yeah, they're still both fruits and tasting sweet.
Did you guys set that up?
And that concludes my presentation.
I had a question on a slide. Yes, please.
All right.
Can you actually go all the way back to the beginning? Okay, and then okay, so wait, go back one.
Okay.
So, okay, that's right. I thought I read last year, beginning of year, but what I read, as you were flipping the slide, it was LUSD beginning of year, because I'm looking around on this. So I guess my next question is, student learning and achievement is like the number one goal, and so normally when we're doing a presentation, I wouldn't ask for it in advance, but I'm wondering if on these graphs, would it be possible to get them in advance so that I can look at them, before the meeting rather than kind of trying to follow. There's a lot of lines here, and it's the most important thing we talk about, in my opinion. Would it be appropriate to ask for the board to have the graphs when we talk about map data and such?
Okay. You guys can have them prior to, okay.
I mean, that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Just even the day before would be fine with me. I'd like to spend a little bit more time so that
if we can ask for at least that morning, because sometimes there's final tweaking.
Or that morning.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine.
That's not good enough for me. I can't look at them during the day.
Oh, we will aim to meet that mark.
Okay.
And I do have a question, but it's not so much related to the data or stuff. It's more of maybe an unscientific, but I'm wondering, last year when we started MAP, there was a lot of feedback from students, their concerns, their frustrations. Have we reached out to teachers and students and parents to try to find out how they're doing? I mean, I can give you a completely unscientific response from 2 students who still don't like it, but aren't they were wanting to throw stuff at the computers and the teachers last year after having to take these things. And this year it felt, from my perspective, from my 2 students, a lot less frustration. Are we hearing some of that because they've been doing it? And are we reaching out to that?
Test or the technology?
No, it was a bit of both. I mean, it was just the fact that you keep getting questions, that you're trying to get wrong answers, that it felt like it was pushing some students, and then also the technology part of it too, I think was more my son's frustration than my daughter's. And I'm just, with all of this stuff, there's so much new going on, I think it behooves us to try to find out from those most involved, are you feeling better? Are you getting it now? Are you understanding why and what we're doing? Because I'm not even sure a lot of parents understand what these tests are really intended to do and why the frustration has to be there, because if we're asked, if you get 100% on this test, if you get every question right, you're not taking the right test. And that's really what the point of this is, right?
So it's two answers to that. The first one is this is a computer adaptive test, which is similar to the test that the students are taking on the CASP.
Right.
And so districts need to transition kids to a comfort zone. Absolutely. To not have the first experience be the CASP experience. So I think this is really the third round of this that we've done. So I can say that there were some initial frustrations this fall because NWEA was being cyber attacked by a competitor. It would probably be a bad time to ask because there was problems. Now they have this new security system, which I've already spoken to, so that should be resolved. But you can't get all the questions right. I mean, I guess in theory.
Right.
Because you answer questions until you start missing questions. So the whole thing is that computer algorithm is looking for when you start to miss.
Right.
What I think that at least my perspective is now we're starting to learn how to read the reports, and conversations are being led at school sites around what those reports mean. I know that there's regrouping with kids based on what the reports are saying. So the intent was to get data and a global level, but also on individual kids, and give a computer adaptive experience. So that met the mark. In terms of transitioning to it, I'm trying to think, because I got two young critters and doing the same thing too. One of them is not as technologically, she likes to do her hair and dance and sing, right? And so she doesn't do as well. And I don't think there's a gap in terms of who they are, but the techno kid is like just sails on it. So I do think though that if the expectation is that the kids are going to perform in experiences like this, and that's going to count for the kid in their learning experience, then whether it's frustrating, we got to work it through and teach them through. And when they're accustomed to it, I think it just becomes part of what we do, as opposed to this new thing that's irritating me.
And the purpose for my question is really more about the first part of that, which is, the data is huge. It's important. It's driving everything we're going to be doing, but kids don't get that. So if there are, some parents have been talking about things like, are we teaching typing for the kids who aren't the technologically advanced kids? Are we looking at what is causing some of the frustrations so that we can try to, because not for naught, if you've got a kid who's dreading taking the test, they may not be performing at the standards that they're really at because of the dread as opposed to the measurements. And to try to tap into what those are, what some of those things are. I mean, if we're going to collect data, let's collect data on that too, at least from my perspective, if it's possible, because truthfully, the more kids we can get comfortable taking the tests in whatever format it is, and the more we're hearing their frustrations and trying to solve those too. I mean, again, it's got to make the teachers happy. If the kids aren't going to get ticked off about having to take the test, the kids are going to perform better on the tests. I'm just trying to gather that second set of data that's not the core data, but something else behind it, and wonder do you believe it would be valuable? Can we do it? Is it not overly burdensome?
I think we could in an informal way, but I also think if it's part of practice, so there's certain things like there's a growth report that you can set goals and a whole goal setting thing, and I don't think that systematically across the district that's happening yet, but that's an option. That's one thing for kids who I don't really like it, but I want to get this mark. Right. AR Points is an example. Very, very successful program in the district about getting kids to read because they want those points. So that's one side. But the other side is if I don't perform well on MAP and I get regrouped and I'm in a group that's not on my skill set, then I have another incentive to get myself to put myself in the group that I should be in. So there's another, that would take longer to get to, but that's another option. But the idea is the teachers are empowered with real data about their real skill, the strengths and the weaknesses, so they can address it in the way they need to.
I think some of the frustration level is being brought down by the realization that these tests aren't meant to be tests that you get 100% on.
Right.
And I think
that's
as the
part of
kids
the conversation
realize
I want to have
that,
with them. And it's those kinds of conversations to have with, you've got your kids who are competitive, and giving them a score and a growth chart is great, but they're not going to see that until well after they've taken the test. And the right now, the one my daughter hates more than anything else, she's like, they're just asking stupid questions, Dad. I'm like, no, they're not stupid, honey. They're not. We're trying to find your middle point. And explaining to that a couple of days after the test doesn't really help her frustration right there in the moment. She's also, the one that kills her, the one that really ticks her off is she'll misclick.
Oh, yeah.
Knows she's misclicked and doesn't have an opportunity to go back and correct her answer. And I could get that that's frustrating. I mean, you meant to click C or whatever it is, and you just hit the wrong button by accident. You have no opportunity to take that back. That's frustrating, and there's nothing we can do about that.
kind of like hitting the send button on an email.
Or a post on Facebook, and you're like, no, I should not have said that.
Yeah.
Word to the wise, delete the twos and CCs.
There's a couple things too that I can share. That one in my office, we haven't heard complaints about kids not using it. And as teachers get used to using it in better ways, and I know there are many teachers I've talked to who are using the goal setting sheets, so the test is becoming a lot more meaningful for the students as well. And like anything, if you have a positive attitude as the adult in charge of the room, that feeds into it. So I think all of that is part of the learning curve. The other piece of it is typically kids that get a little more frustrated are your higher achieving students, and whereas on the other side of it, your lower achieving students actually feel a lot better about taking these tests because they aren't constantly being asked things that they don't know, and then all of a sudden it's like, why try? I'm not even going to read anymore, because now if they miss one, it lowers it down and they go, oh, I kind of know that. And if they still miss it, it goes down again and they're like, oh, I know this answer. And then it moves along at this level. So they realize there is a point to trying because it's going to adjust, and then I can really show what I know. Whereas in the past, I missed it. I'm not going to get any of them right. Who really cares? Why bother trying? I can get an F if I don't try. Might as well not try instead of get an F because I did try. And, it feels a lot better. So our lower achieving students are actually feeling more successful as the norm, I believe. The only group that we're still working to transition is working with kindergartners. And so we're still talking about that and looking at how do we do that with our kindergarten students a little bit. And the rest of it, I think, is moving forward really well.
So I had a couple of follow on. Thank you very much for putting this together and presenting it. Dr. Nicholas, if I ask for something that's onerous, just tell me it's onerous. And then the last suggestion I had is maybe if getting it out early doesn't work, then giving us the slides so that I can discreetly or unobtrusively flip through if I have questions. Oh, what did I see 2 slides ago, without having to interrupt? That might be a good fallback.
We can promise a draft. It just sometimes, I oddly, the way that my quirky brain works is sometimes I have ahas. I'm like, oh, you know what? What if we did it this way? And then I come into work and say, let's flip this and do that. So this kind of bar graph is easy to get out. I'm just saying sometimes we keep working on it all through the day. So a draft is easy to do.
I'm totally. A draft is great.
The numbers.
Yeah,
I don't even care if it's a draft. Just show me the numbers because I can put that together in a way that's meaningful for me.
A draft with the board agenda would be great.
But if it's onerous, then
It should be out, though.
I don't know, is that realistic? Do you guys have this stuff done by the time of the agenda?
Well, the agenda goes out on Friday, so this was worked on over the weekend. So, I mean, if you want it that way, we can.
We only had one board meeting a month. It might be easier.
That face was. I am kicking him under the dais.
All right. We'll set that as a goal, and if there's a problem, then I'll communicate it. But we can get out stuff.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you very
I did
much.
have a question about a comment. I wanted to wait until all the map scores and things were commented on. The Skills Navigator from NWEA. I would like to request of the district that if we're going to go with this, that we get some teachers to pilot it before dumping yet another computerized program. They're a little overwhelmed right now. I see the advantages of using a program like that, but let's make sure our teachers are going to find it useful and that they're ready for it and that we have a little bit of piloting before we jump into this.
Absolutely. We've actually talked to the rep about a potential pilot and targeting specific students for whom we think it would be most advantageous.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Happy birthday.
And thank you for choosing to spend part of your birthday with us.
How
Choosing.
thoughtful of
That's
you.
a good word.
And do you have anything further, or is that it?
That's
Okay.
it.
Item B is a quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints, July 2015 to October 15.
There are no complaints.
Item C, district enrollment report.
Our district enrollment is 4,077 students.
I noticed on the enrollment report that, I think it was high school went down a little bit. Was that just students, people moving out of Mountain House, do we know? Or were they transfers out to other districts? Okay. So it wasn't like someone who's still here wanting to go to another district. They're actually, the family's moving out of Mountain House? Thank you.
Gopher report.
No Gopher report, but I did want to discuss some of the, in my role, some of my responsibilities to make sure that the infrastructure and the connectivity is working among the school sites. We have been having issues off and on throughout the district, through various classes. I hear it was better this week. I've had numerous emails, texts, phone calls, visits to the site. Noel has placed a picture I took today. A team from Cisco and AMS came out. They tested out 35 devices, Samsung's, HP, Dell, with no hiccups today on any of these devices. That's what I said. So I know that they had made some changes on Saturday. They purposely didn't make changes for all the sites. We are requesting that the teachers continue to try the devices now, report their issues now. The two issues that are coming up are out of range and the password issues. The out of range obviously is a Cisco AMS, and they apologize profusely for the issues that we've been having. We'll continue to keep coming by, stay connected. The password issues may be something with the software, and so we may be reaching out to Google with that, but we need to find out how many and which of those devices. But since we have so many out there, I'm encouraging the teachers to report them to us, try them out, and let us know.
So is the out of range that we don't have enough access points?
Well, that's what we thought. But when they were testing it on Friday, what they thought they were bringing down wasn't bringing that, what they thought down. It was even causing teacher computers to kick off. I mean, I even had it happen to me firsthand at Lammersville on Mr. Seamus's laptop. It just kicked me off. So they're checking SSIDs. I heard this week we went to Cuesta today, spoke with two teachers. One of them has had no issues the last few days, which is good news. But sadly, it's kind of made them a little bit fearful of creating lesson plans around these devices that may or may not stay connected. It's not that all of them are going down, but it's randomly choosing different units.
Are we looking into or finding out if it might be a throttling issue with regards to what we're getting from the county and a bandwidth question?
A county has also been brought into the loop. They have the highest engineers they could possibly have working on this issue right now. They cannot afford for their access points, their switches, to not work on these devices all of the time.
Right, but have we contacted the county to
County
find
has
out?
been involved.
Okay, so because I mean, the downtime that we've already experienced as a result of other issues can't have helped with any of this either. And when you start messing with these things, the cascade of stupidity that happens within computers and networks and switches can really get frustrating.
Yes.
It seems like when we replaced the switches, it started a chain reaction. It's possible that there's, I'm making up a number, so this is not the actual number, but there might be 5 different things going on. But they've had, how many people were out here? 13 people?
They have, 13 people on it. I think we had 8 in this picture. I was watching them turn all of them on, shut them down. They had people on the phone. It was interesting to watch. I want this resolved. I don't want it to affect the teachers in the classroom if they can't rely on it. So they have assured me that they will take care of it. It's not going to fix in days, but I'm hoping whatever changes they made on Saturday, we already started to notice an improvement even at Bethany School. So
The system has to work.
it has to work, period.
And they can tell us whatever they want and apologize profusely. I don't care. It has to work. And if it takes 13 people here every day to make it work, then that's what they need to do.
Have we
Are they coming back
explored-
again?
We are going to request that the teachers try it because they came out, I watched them test everything, 35 units at the high school, because the high school was also having problems too. So it will be coming out, maybe trying an elementary site and testing all the devices at an elementary site. But it is very frustrating.
And are they responsive when you call?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm texting even various engineers and project managers on the issues.
Realizing that this might not be a solution at the high school, and I haven't looked at the Chromebooks and all of the devices that closely, do we have a hardwire option? And is the hardwire option also failing?
I am not sure, but I know even personally here, I'm hardwired on my desktop, and I notice sometimes I have to re-log in my password. and that's a hard wire.
See, this sounds more like it's the county to me. I'm not an engineer, but it just sounds more like it's our throughput and it's our bandwidth, that packets are getting dropped and lost not here, but on the way there.
Right. And I've watched with their phones, they try the little device with the little needle point
Yeah,
and show great
the bandwidth.
response.
Sure.
And we did it over at
But you
Cuesta and
can
at the
have-
high school today.
It's way too technical. You can have great throughput on a consistent basis, but if you're dropping key numbers of packets along the way, which those meters won't test, that's just as important. And I just worry because of the problems we've had at the county that could be part of it, and it has nothing to do with what we're doing here. And without getting everybody involved in everything, as long as we've got all those players involved at once, eventually we'll figure it out.
Yes.
And they stated
I agree with Matt.
they will.
The answer is it will work.
It will work. It has to work. Or replace
And
everything.
that's been the message.
Or
Replace
do
it.
again.
Yes. It's yes. Thank
Well,
you.
if this persists, maybe we can have them come give us an explanation.
Yeah, we won't have a
We'll
problem.
do. Sadir Mata was here today.
Thank you. Committee reports, item A is facility use. We met last night. I was actually the agendas are starting to get easy. We were out of here in an hour, which was great. Because of the quick turnaround, we don't have the minutes in this report, but we'll have it in the next one. Item B, District Advisory Committee.
Has not met.
Okay, just item C, District English Language Advisory Committee.
Has not met since the last board meeting. We updated at the last meeting, right?
That's right. And the next meeting is November 18th at 6:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D, Gate Art Music.
There was a gate meeting scheduled for October 13th. There was some issues with the scheduling, and it has been rescheduled to November 3rd at 6:30 here in the district office.
Thank you. Item E, Safety and Crisis Response. I wasn't able to make it, but the committee met today. I heard it was very productive. They did a tabletop. I guess in all sites, fire drills have been taking place every month, or K-8 sites every month. And today they did a tabletop on a lockdown drill, which is going to happen, shelter in place for next month. And the committee members will take that back to their sites and work it through with their sites before actually going through a drill at the site next month, right? Very good. Thanks, Kush. Item F, Wellness.
The Wellness Committee met on October 14th, and we discussed current activities taking place at the sites, including Caught Eating Well, which is where the students, when observed eating healthy foods, are given raffle tickets to enter drawings. Another thing that's going on at the sites is Relay Recess, where students walk the yard and are encouraged to eat a healthy snack. The upcoming farmers markets, where the students are allowed to shop for fruits and vegetables. Also, the upcoming Challenge Day at Mountain House High School, an anti-bullying program that 7th and 8th graders participate in along with high schoolers, and then the 7th and 8th graders take that back to the K-8s. We also discussed some ideas that we're looking into implementing, including bicycle safety assemblies, anti-bullying assemblies, tying nutrition into math and science lessons, and possibly seeing Mountain House drama students producing and acting skits for the K-8s showing healthy eating and activities.
Sounds good. Governing board reports.
I attended Student Learning and Achievement, as well as Policy and Judicial Review, which are the next two courses or next two installments of the Masters in Governance program. I learned an incredible amount. The advanced reading material was incredible. I really did learn so much. I think that this experience really does help me to become better board members. I do apologize to the board. I forgot to add the gate. I was one of the calendar issues with the gate art music committee. I did not add it to my calendar, and therefore I did not attend. I do want to thank the district staff for sending out the invite for the next one and including all of the rest of the dates for the rest of the year. So they're all in my calendar, so I should not miss any more. I wanted to thank the teachers and other staff members that came and spoke at the workshop. I appreciated the open and honest communication from all sides. One item from the meeting last week that I would like to ask the board if there's a consensus, was the process for determining the Common Core aligned curriculum adoption for the 2017 school year. My understanding, based on the comments last week, was that given where we are currently, selecting, approving, implementing, and all that is a aggressive but possible goal. I came away from the meeting thinking that that's where we were. I would be interested in seeing a draft timeline of how the major milestones of how that adoption would look with, and I'm not talking about a master's thesis on curriculum adoption, just the major milestones of, and when that might happen. A timeline, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just so that, at least I think it would be valuable for me to understand, here's the major milestones and here's when they should occur in order for that to happen for the beginning of the year next year. And so I just thought I'd throw that out there for the board. I have no other comments or questions.
As far as that, I know the district used to have the committee that, what was it called? Curriculum committee.
Curriculum council at the
Curriculum
school
council,
sites, and
yeah.
then a district-wide curriculum committee.
There's a whole process defined in a board policy and administrative regulations that's real clear. But a timeline doesn't exist in that, so that's something that the team can put together. And that's the plan that was presented to all the teachers in the district through the principals and ed services kind of goes right along with what that board policy and administrative regulation is. So we can get you a timeline as a concept. Lots of work to do on the backside and communicating with all the folks, but that shouldn't be a problem.
Having participated in this, and there may be some panic out in the audience, oh my God, we have to do a timeline, even of time frames, not hard dates necessarily, but in this month, this will happen, so you can breathe a little bit.
Were you going to address our joint meeting last week?
Oh, yeah.
I'll give a brief report on it, if that's okay, and that is just that Mr. Balzerini and I had an opportunity to meet with a couple of members from the CSD board as it relates to our service on the facilities committee and to address facilities with a couple of the board members from the CSD. And if nothing else, I'm hopeful that we can find a spirit of cooperation between our two boards, that there was at least some recognition on both sides that whilst we are our own entities, there is some crossover, if not small, as it relates to buildings and facilities. And, I'm hopeful to get a lot more input on our side to them for the things that they're planning for the future, because, I get that they're autonomous and get to do their own thing, but, if they're going to build a library, for example, talking to teachers and students might be a good way to get input on what they'd like to see in a library and things like that. And I really do feel at least there was some understanding of trying to come to a middle ground and really get more cooperation. And I'm hopeful that our director and their director will be able to more actively communicate on some of these issues, despite my efforts to curtail that at prior meetings maybe. So that was it.
Well, just also that we're going to meet quarterly.
Yeah.
That was kind of what we brought out of the meetings. We'll meet quarterly and bring the information back to the board.
That was really all we resolved at this first meeting.
Okay. So just a very brief comment on last week's meeting. And I think I mentioned it last week. All of my years in education, I've never seen a meeting like that. I mean, we are really forging uncharted territory with increasing the communication with our Teachers Association. And I, for one, am hoping that increased communication and truly listening to the teachers continues. I had the wonderful opportunity to spend all of the lunch times at Cuesta School with teachers on Monday. And I want to thank the teachers for their candid comments to me. I had emailed with Becky and I said, I need to hear some positive and not just all negative. And it was a fabulously balanced back and forth communication with the teachers. And they really gave me a good picture of what their concerns are, what they're happy with. And I'm glad I was able to do that. I got over to Altamont. I was hoping to tour some classrooms with the principal, but we had a teacher with a sick child, had to leave as soon as I got there. So I got to watch the principal play teacher. And that was a lot of fun, to go into the classroom with the kids. And he actually used me as part of his lesson. What is a school board member? And how does all that work? What else did I do? I went to the football game. And ate a lot of really good food.
Yes. Those
Yeah.
tri-tips, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And the potatoes. Can't beat the potatoes, yeah.
I'm sorry. Never mind. I'm sorry. The football player that went to the hospital, I was curious about.
Yeah, we're trying to get some follow-up on that. I've been asking for that also. We did have we had a few injured football players. But I'm really glad to see French Camp Fire. They bring the truck right into the stadium. Why should they be on the other side of the fence in the firehouse? They actually come onto our property, and they're there. The EMTs were on site, so our team doc didn't have to handle a serious injury on his own. And they're happy to be there, and I think they're a great addition to our community. I will be doing another Masters in Governance class. I had to change the one from November. I think it's rescheduled to February or March because my schedule changed. But I'm looking forward to, I'm not going to be able to do all of them in a year, so I'm spreading it out over some time. But I'm looking forward to continuing that education also.
I'm sorry, Mr. Balzerine, if you don't mind, I forgot to add, thank you for reminding me about the football game. I wanted to add a couple of things. One, our cheerleaders in our band and seeing the spirit, not only like of what they're doing, but you know, when we invited the other cheer squad to cheer, which I don't really recall seeing very often at, you know, the visiting cheer getting to do a presentation on the road like that. And then to watch all of them sit there and watch the marching band do their thing and the respect that the football players paid from both sides to the marching band, I want to appreciate. But I wanted to, and I hadn't had an opportunity to, wanted to ask before I do, I would like to reach out to the principal and to the head coach of the Ripon football team. The class and respect that those players showed, every tackle, every carry our guys had, 2 or 3 guys were just absolutely creaming our kid, and then they all picked him up, patted him on the shoulder, patted him on the back, said good play, and went back and did it again. And it was after every single play. At the end of the first half, they were winning very handily, drove all the way down to the 5-yard line, and with a minute to go, could have scored another touchdown to go up by 49 points, 7 touchdowns, and the coach said, take a knee. The players didn't blink, didn't do it, just took a knee. The fact that they respected us, I even talked to a couple of parents and like, you guys are just growing, it's going to be okay. I just wanted to reach out to them and thank them for that, because that's just not something in high school sports that could get so competitive and so, I was really glad to see that from them, and I would, if you could, if it's okay, I would reach out, but if you could reach
I went to
out
high school with the high school principal there, and he's a good friend of mine, so I'll be happy to call him tomorrow.
to the coach too, because that
His
was
nickname
it's
is
just
Papa
not
Bear.
something you see. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the videos
He was
about
what?
His nickname is Papa Bear, so I'll be calling Papa Bear tomorrow.
I wanted to mention it specifically because I don't know if anyone has seen the video of Deer Valley and Pittsburgh High School and what their marching band and football players acted like, and I don't know which side of that was to blame, but to see the distinction with our schools and that, I just really wanted to reach out to them and say thank you for that, because that was very classy and respectful.
Last Friday, Superintendent Nicholas and I attended 2 Masters in Governance courses, one on student learning and achievement and one on policy and judicial review. And I think we both got a lot out of it. I know I did. And then later that evening, I attended the high school football game at Mountain House High School. Got to watch my son play in the JV team, and then he ran and changed clothes and came back out and played with the marching band during the varsity game. So that was enjoyable. I also got to enjoy the baked potato that Trustee Lampel mentioned, and among other food. I tend to eat a lot at the football games. Then on Sunday, I attended the Lammersville Elementary School Harvest Carnival. There was I thought, a very impressive turnout for our smallest school, and again, sampled a lot of great food.
You have a theme going here, Trustee Pombo.
I do, in life. And as far as the LSF carnival goes, the preliminary numbers show a profit of nearly $5,000. And then last night, I went to parent-teacher conferences at Mountain House High School and spoke to a lot of teachers. Got some good news and some not so good news, but that's beside the point. And then afterwards, I attended the DARE graduation at Bethany Elementary School and shook hands with a lot of outstanding elementary students. And that's my report.
Thank you. I feel like I've been here a lot, but I really don't have anything to report out on. But I did want to mention kind of just one of the comments that Trustee Lampell had made about the fire department out there. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Gill, because the fire department wouldn't be out there if it wasn't for a meeting that we had with the fire department. And Dr. Gill is an excellent negotiator. She negotiated a great price for this year of free. That may change in the future, but as far as this year, since they're new here, they agreed to go out there and provide standby services for free. So thank you for.
I say we offer them a 3% raise next year.
So,
Trustee
I want to acknowledge that.
Trustee Lampell, I do apologize for interrupting you. It was out of sheer concern for the football player that went to the hospital.
No, I'm glad you did, because I would have forgotten to mention it.
So, action items. Item A is consider approval of updated 2015-16 intra-district transfer request.
I'll
Any
move for
staff report?
approval.
No. Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that's it. Information discussion items. Item A is high school graduation ceremony date.
Could I ask Assistant Principal Brian Shum to come up and speak to that?
Good evening, board members, Dr. Nicholas. So we have a slowly growing senior class. We're excited to have our inaugural seniors this year. I think we're up to 50 as of this week. We've set a date at this point of May 27th for our graduation date for those seniors. That follows the last day of school, May 26th, which is a Thursday. That date was set to give time for teachers to finish those finals and wrap that up, have the final grades in. It's also a day that students would not be on campus, so it offers us some flexibility as far as timing of that ceremony.
And Brian, what time of day are we looking at?
I don't think we have that established yet.
Okay. And do we have established, is it going to be at the high school?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
That would be a Friday.
It's a Friday.
Can I give an update? Because of the beauty of technology, the report on the football player just miraculously showed up on my phone.
Okay.
So this is what it says. Of course, I hit the button twice, and now I got to hit another button. One of the students, athletes, is okay. Everything's fine. The other is on crutches and has a neck brace because he compacted his neck, but both are at school again.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, May 27th. So,
How many board members are going to be at the high school graduation?
Well, this was the concern. What day are the,
Elementary schools.
yes.
I have a standing commitment at Wickland.
I'm guessing that since the last day of school is Thursday, the
26. So
the elementary graduations will be Thursday night. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Dr. Gill. Why don't you?
Yes, Kate's will be on the 26th evening, usually either 6:30, 7 o'clock time. We don't have the times established at each of the school sites yet.
We've had principals confirm they're going to do it on Thursday.
That's the tradition we have. Nobody has come forward and saying we're going to, it's always on last day of school.
We had a couple of different ones.
This was, no, it's on the last day of school.
That was the problem.
Always
They
on
were
the
all on the
last day of
same
school.
day.
But
That's what it was, different times.
Yes, at
But not
different
enough
times.
difference so you could go to two.
Right.
Yeah. So it will be on the 26th of May.
Yeah.
okay.
So
So What is the process for making the decisions about the high school graduation ceremony and the time and stuff like that?
That's something we will discuss with the high school staff, and then we'll bring forward that recommendation to you as governing board, and give us your feedback.
I'm a little bit concerned about having a high school graduation on a Friday night, only because not everybody can get off of work on Friday, and the timing might be difficult also for out-of-town family members and those sorts of things.
So what are you thinking, Saturday?
Some schools do Friday, some do Saturday for that reason, that it's a travel thing, that it's hard.
That is true.
I think does most of theirs on Saturday.
Yeah, Tracy always does on Saturday mornings.
In my current district and previous districts, it was always on a weeknight.
So the best graduation ceremony for high school I've ever seen is Lincoln High School. Every year, 450 to about 600 kids graduate. It's done on a weeknight, and they get done within an hour and 10 minutes. That's the expectation. It is 5,000 people in the stands. Every administrator participates. It's in, it's out. It's beautiful, lots of pomp and circumstance, but they get it done in a way. So with 50 kids, you're talking about a totally different deal. But the weeknight thing usually is it does. I've never seen it be a major problem in my experience.
Usually for kids, we have done always on Friday nights in the past, because typically our last day of school was Fridays in the past. This is the first year in many years we're going to actually finish on a Thursday.
Well, and that leads to my concern, which is maybe not for this year, but if we're going to do it, if we're going to do the K-8 graduations on Friday nights and the high school graduation on Friday nights, you're going to put.
We will definitely have to separate high school from kids.
So we have to think about Saturdays coming up if we're going to be doing the K-8.
Well, that would depend entirely on when the last day of school is moving forward, because
That's correct.
it may continue to be on Thursdays.
Wednesday. I can't imagine we have too many Wednesdays as the last day of school. Although I'm guessing most people, I'd be okay with it.
So just what I wrote down was May 26th was the K-8 promotions, and May 27th was the high school graduation plan.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? So what we set here as a precedent, we can live and learn from it, but that the K-8 promotions happen at a different night than the high school, so that, because this is tradition, you're talking about 50 years from now, this will be rolling out
We're
in
gonna have
lore.
siblings.
Yes.
And so then
Will in 4 years.
and we'll have about 250 kids graduating next year from high school, so that'll be where a big ceremony happens. So just to keep those things in consideration.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of having the high school graduation on a different night
Me too.
than the K-8s.
Also, I think that this year more than ever, I think that we all need to be there for the high school graduation.
Absolutely.
I think that every single one wants to be there as well, so.
Definitely. We would like you to be there as well. So
Well, I was going to say
Date.
I will be there in May of 2018. So I was willing to give up on the inaugural one if that's what I had to do to get May of 2018.
The full board needs to be there for this.
Yeah.
A lot, with the work that most of us up here, put into making sure this high school's in existence, yeah, we're going to be there for it.
And I have a young lady who will have my head if I'm not at
Yeah.
the high school graduation this year, so.
And my pushing on the date and the time, I know I've been nagging a lot of people about it, is because I have to submit a work calendar. So if our graduation's during the day, I need to take the day off, so I need to know now.
we
I can
will
do it.
we will make sure that we will discuss with the high school team within
you.
next week or so, and come to a time. We'll make sure that we bring that time to you. We're also working on a calendar, because there was a request to inform you about all the county events, such as when the science fair competition is, math Olympiad competition is. We'll be bringing that to you as well in the next board meeting. And I would like to, since I have the opportunity to stand here for a second, invite you to, Mr. Pombo already said that our very first relay recess for this school year is this Friday from 1 to 1:25 at each of the school sites. The entire school walks together along with the community members, and if you have an opportunity, please participate. We'd love to see you there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Was there any further discussion on the high school graduation? No? Okay, thank you. In just a moment, let's see, calendar. Item A is let's see, I'm not gonna go through all these. Everything's on here. The next board meeting is,
There's lots of stuff on the calendar.
there's a lot of stuff. The next board meeting is gonna be on Wednesday, November 4th, and just for everyone's refresh your memory here that in November, we only have one board meeting. Looks like we have
Yes, but
we have
facilities
use.
committee.
Oh, well.
Please highlight one calendar.
I'm sorry?
Could I please highlight one calendar event? Monday, November 9th is the district spelling bee.
Oh, yes.
We were wondering if any board members would like to judge
I can't.
or able to.
That does not require the ability to spell, is that correct?
No, please.
I cannot.
Is that when you judge, you do have to use the word in a sentence if they request it, right?
Have it, they give it to you.
Oh, thank God.
They give you all the questions.
Jejune.
I, yeah, I can do it.
I believe I can do it as well.
Okay, thank you.
And in record time, I move we adjourn to closed session.
Second.
And in closed session, we'll be discussing public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, conference with labor negotiators, and Government Code Section 54956.9, conference with legal counsel, pending litigation, one case, and a conference with real property negotiators. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're now in closed session.
I have my best face on, but